All right, welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Monday, the 9th of January. Good to have you aboard. However you're listening to the show, we appreciate you. Make sure you like, you rate, you comment, you do all that good stuff. It's good for the algorithm. You let everybody know you love ZASLOW Show 2.0. That's great for me. I appreciate you. And of course, ZASLOW Show 2.0 always brought to us by our title sponsor, which is Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you're involved in any kind of accident, any kind of personal injury, you want to make sure you give a call to Anidjar and Levine. Those are my guys, because they're going to get you the money that you deserve. They're going to make sure that you're taken care of. 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. Wow. Do we have a lot to get to on the show today? I missed a few things. Let's be honest. I missed a few things. Now, it's not as if, I didn't see everything that was going on. I've been away since last week. I was away since last Monday night. And I told you, I didn't want to leave everybody in the lurch, although, I know you guys were probably saying to yourself when it got around to Friday and you realize there's no ZASLOW Show 2.0, man, who's going to tell us if it's a big game or if it's not a big game? And I really apologize for that. But I did put out a tweet from Utah. I was in Utah last week. First time ever there. Lovely place. I put out a tweet on Friday, so I hope that steered you in the right direction at least. There was a lot happening. There were a lot of games. And I'm sorry. I hope I didn't leave you out in the lurch too much. So I sent out a tweet, told you which games were big, which games were not big, and I hope it helped you out a little bit. But I told you I went away last Monday night. All right, we took my family skiing for the first time ever. Took them skiing, and that was a great time. We'll get to that in a second. But we left on Monday night, and I wanted to make sure I at least put out a couple of shows. All right, a couple of interviews that I was able to tape in advance and put out for you guys on Tuesday and Wednesday. Actually had another one to put out for Thursday, but it became dated with all the Damar Hamlin stuff that took place on Monday. So I was going to have shows for you essentially Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday last week, but it ended up just being Tuesday, Wednesday. So that was unfortunate. Like I said, it became dated because of the Damar Hamlin stuff. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed what I was able to put together last week. We had good NBA conversation with one of my favorite hosts out there, Justin Termini from SiriusXM NBA Radio, and had a great conversation with our pal Chris Van Vliet out there on the West Coast, he is terrific. So go back and you check those out if you want to catch some really good stuff, really good interviews, and of course on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ZaslowShow. Now, we're back to the live action. So I saw everything that took place last week. The Panthers, I was following, I followed a couple Panther games, and I watched one. We got back this morning, took the red eye. First time I've ever second time, because the first time I ever went to Vegas, and we're talking 20 years ago, first time I ever went to Vegas, took the red eye back, sucks balls. The red eye's terrible. I slept for maybe 90 minutes on the flight last night, and that's kind of why, the show is dropping a little bit later than it normally does today. So I apologize for that, but I had to obviously get in a couple of hours of sleep. So we did that this morning, and then we're getting the show going. So we took the red eye back last night. Red eye sucks. No way around it. But we left, but I was able to see the Dolphin game yesterday. Yes, that's where I was going. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. But I was able to catch the Dolphins yesterday. I was able to catch the Panthers yesterday. I was able to catch the Heat yesterday. And how about this? So twice while I was away, the Heat on this West Coast trip, the game in Los Angeles against the Lakers, which they lost, embarrassing game, and the game in Phoenix, which they won on Friday last week, were both on ESPN. So I was able to watch those games out there in Utah. And how about this? How about the luck of this? Now, granted, I would have went to a sports bar yesterday afternoon, and I would have found, I would have went somewhere that was showing the Dolphin game because of NFL Sunday Ticket. But Dolphins-Jets was the regional game in that area of the country. So we were able to just chill in the townhouse that we were at, and I watched the Dolphins game yesterday, and then watched the Panthers, terrible, and then watch the Heat, very disappointing finish. We're going to get to all that stuff. So I caught everything last week, starting with the Damar Hamlin stuff. What that happened, so we were at our gate getting ready to take off, and I'm kind of following the Monday Night Football, Bills, Bengals, you know, there's a lot riding on it. And there hasn't been a scoring update or an update to the plays in like 5 minutes. Something's going on here. And then I could actually see from a distance, because I could see a bar at Fort Lauderdale International Airport, not too far from the gate where we are. And I see that there's an ambulance on the field. I'm like, oh shit, this is so bad. And then, sorry, I was taking a sip of coffee. And then my son shows me on his phone, my older son shows me on his phone what happened. I was horrified. So far this season, we had 2 of the worst, you know, injury situations, if you will, happen during the game. 2 of the worst that we've ever seen. Horrifying. Damar Hamlin last Monday, a week ago tonight. And, I mean, I thought he was dead on the field. And, of course, Tua, who I thought he was paralyzed on the field. And I never seen anything like that with the fingers. 2 of the worst injury situations I've ever seen during a sporting event have taken place this NFL season. So, I'll get to the Damar Hamlin stuff. I'll get to a little bit more of it. But like I said, I was up to speed with everything while we were in Utah. I was able to see everything, the Heat, the Panthers, all the big NFL games. We're going to have our Week 18 NFL rundown, of course, brought to us by Brunt Insurance. That's coming up in a little bit here. We got the playoff scenario. You got the national championship tonight. I do want to mention real quick about Damar Hamlin, though. So, of course, throughout the... I mean, obviously, it's the worst situation that Damar Hamlin has ever dealt with, but he seems like the kind of kid who doesn't see it that way. He seems like the kind of kid, because of the things he's been saying, where this is God's plan, and you know, he seems like the kind of kid who is really going to not capitalize. That's not the word I'm looking for. Who is going to be able to use this situation, be able to use this experience in an incredibly positive fashion. You've had all the stories throughout the week about him, and he seems like a great kid. A great dude. Which, from that aspect of it, is really terrific that we get to highlight what a great young man this is. Because, you know, look, God forbid, you don't want this type of thing to happen to any of these players, but it seems like it happened to a great kid who now we all know about, and we get to know what he's about, and the things that he does off the field. And, you know, the toy drive, which he wanted $3,500 was the goal, and the last I checked, it was at $8 million now because of what took place. That's some weird stuff, right? You know, I've been through this before. We talked about this kind of stuff in several different instances. But when you're talking about what you believe and you know, there being a higher being and fate and all that type of stuff, you have this that happened to a kid who really seems to be trying to do a lot of good in the world. And as a result of this situation, which he has fought through now, still in critical condition, but apparently progressing magnificently. And, you know, if you believe that type of stuff, God chose him, you know, and now for someone who wants to help kids, $8 million has now been raised, you know, for this charity, this toy drive that he runs. Really weird stuff like that, you know, depending on what you believe. And then you see this is the kind of kid who seems to be able to spread great messages. Just seems kind and seems like his head and his heart are in the right place. And that is a positive that has come out of this Damar Hamlin situation, where we get to highlight this really kind person, and we get to see the humanity from his teammates, from the fans, not just in Buffalo, but from all over, the players all over the league, and everyone really just coming together over the last week in support of this kid. And then, you know, you got in the Bills game where and Dolphin fans, hey, we're all watching it, man. We're watching it. We're rooting hard for the Bills because, you know, F the Patriots. But we're watching it. We're rooting hard for the Bills, which, by the way, this weekend, Dolphins, Bills, the entire world is rooting against the Dolphins. The entire world. And you know, makes sense because the Bills kind of feel like team of destiny now, you know, and everyone wants the Bills to keep playing and to keep, you know, moving forward so we can continue this story of winning for Damar Hamlin. The entire world's rooting against the Dolphins. We're the only, like, we are the bad guys. We're the bad guys. And as Dolphin fans, we are especially the bad guys because we are rooting against the Bills. What? How could you root against Damar Hamlin's team? Yeah, we're the bad guys. We're the bad guys this weekend. But understood. We understand that that's the case. So, anyway, depending on what you believe or what you don't believe in, and I've already been through this a million times, like, I always go back to after Jose Fernandez died, and you got D. Gordon, who, you know, was like Jose's best friend on the team. He's got no home runs on the season. He's not a power hitter. He decides to go up there, and he crushes a home run in the opening at bat of the game. First at bat of the game. First game after Jose Fernandez's death. Crushes the home run. Not just a home run, his first of the season, but into the upper deck. And D. Gordon has no business hitting that ball, not only into the stands, but into the upper deck. No business whatsoever. And I remember watching it live, and I'm crying my eyes. I'm hysterical. And I'm not someone who cries. I'm hysterical crying as D. Gordon is rounding the bases. And I don't believe in that kind of stuff, man. And then something like that happens, and you're like, what just happened? What did I just watch? And that's kind of how that's what happened with the Bills game this weekend. And we're going to get to more of it during the NFL rundown, but the Bills hadn't had a kickoff return for a touchdown in 3.5 years. And they take the opening kickoff to the house. It's very tough to put your finger on it. It is. If you don't believe in that type of stuff, which I don't, it's very difficult to be able to grasp how that could possibly have happened if you don't believe in that type of stuff. You second guess all that, you know? So, just an incredible scene. And it felt good for the Bills fans for that one moment because, you know, screw them. We're the bad guys this weekend. We're the bad guys, man. We're the only ones who are not rooting for the Bills. But the great part is we do get to root against the Bills. We do get to root for the Dolphins this weekend. I watched the Dolphin game yesterday. Of course, I was in Utah, like I said. Spent the week with my family skiing in Park City, which, by the way, I'm kind of like a professional skier. If I could say this real quick. So we went skiing, and it's our first time, my boy's first time. My wife hadn't been skiing in 20 years. I hadn't been skiing. I've been skiing one time in my life, 20 years ago. And I was terrible. And it was, like, I think I went down the slope one time. I was in Montreal. I was 20 or 21 years old. I think I went down the slope one time, had a little bit of trouble, then eventually did make my way down the slope. It felt very dangerous because I didn't know what I was doing. And then I was like, F this, I'm done. This is not safe for me. Because I didn't do lessons, I didn't do any of that. So we did ski school, the four of us. My boys had never been skiing. And if I could focus on myself for a second here, I felt so good about myself with the skiing because for the first time in forever, I used to be really athletic. Look, I can go out there. I can still throw a football really great. You know, for the most part, you know, I play baseball catch with my sons. My throwing sucks now. Like, I just don't have control of the ball the way that I used to. And basketball, it's an embarrassment. Like, sometimes I'll have it go. I used to be a great basketball player, but now it's like I've never played before. It's really embarrassing. But I felt so good with the skiing because for the first time in forever, I felt athletic again. Like, I fell a total probably 3 times over the week. But whatever, that doesn't sound like 3 times. That doesn't sound like a lot. And I did great. I picked it up very fast in the ski school. We went right up those mountains. It was awesome. And for the first time in forever, I felt athletic again. So I had a fantastic time skiing. My wife never felt once. She was great. And my boys, terrific job, especially for first time skiing. We're now a skiing family. We're going to go every year. We're going to go back at the end of this year or beginning of next year, whatever it is. My boys did fantastic. They struggled the first time down. They went to ski school, of course. First time down the mountain. My younger one struggled in a very big way the first time down the mountain. Then I said, no, I'm going to go up with you now. Because what happened was our first time, we went to ski school the one day, and then the next day we go up the mountain. And then the first time down the mountain, the 4 of us are going at the same time. And we're doing the easiest one, all right? We're doing the easiest mountain. Although it's still, like, if you don't know what you're doing, it ain't easy. But so we're going down the mountain, and my younger son, he's falling. He cannot do anything. But my older son is flying down the mountain. I'm like, all right, I got to go chase him, So I'm going after him. My wife is staying with my younger one. But the second time up, I told my younger one, listen, I'm going to stay with you this whole time. He didn't fall once. I don't think he fell the rest of the week. So I was super proud of him. He was really happy with himself. He was able to do it when it looked like it was going to be a disaster. My older one was fantastic also. We had such a great time. If you've never been skiing, I highly recommend it. We're now a skiing family. So Park City, Utah, what an awesome time. It was really cold, but we were dressed appropriate. If you go, you can look at the pictures at ZASLOW on Instagram. I'm an influencer, but whatever. And you go and check out the pictures there. We had such a great time. Snowmobiles, tubing, but skiing. Oh, man, skiing is so much fun. Skiing's great. All right, but we got it. Oh, and another thing I got to add as well. So being out on the West Coast, it was mountain time, so 2 hours behind. Really weird when you're in a different time zone. But I'll tell you what's money. Sports out west. Like last night. And we took a red eye, so our flight was at midnight last night. So we had the whole day and night to kill before we go to the airport. Sunday night football, Packers-Lions, was over at 9 p.m. The Dolphin game started at 11 a.m. The Heat, I'm watching the Heat on ESPN in the middle of the week against the Lakers, against the Suns. It's a 10 p.m., West Coast game here in Miami, here in South Florida. I'm watching the game other 8 p.m. start time. Oh, the West Coast times. And like I said, we were in mountain time zone. But the time zone out west for sports, money. Oh, that was so good. I love that. I love that. You got hockey games, you got NBA games that are starting at 5 p.m.? What a pleasure. You may want to consider just moving out west just for sports. That may be reason enough. I don't know. So that was awesome. Anyway, like I said, we're going to get to the Heat. Panthers, they suck. Terrible. So, before we get to the NFL rundown, we got a lot of Dolphins stuff to get to here, of course. That's why you'll listen. Like, I got to hear I missed Zaslow the entire week. I got to hear I missed him talk about Damar Hamlin. I missed him talk about, the Heat losing the Lakers. He didn't tell us big game, not a big game. All right, your boy's back. We're here. Everybody take it easy. Everybody settle down. So, going into the game, like, the idea of relying on Skylar Thompson to make the postseason, and then when it's obviously, it's going to be, if you make the playoffs, it's going to be at Buffalo. Like, relying on Skylar Thompson to make the postseason is so dumb. And to wind up, and they didn't back in. They needed to win. They needed a little bit of help. So they didn't back in. But getting into the playoffs by winning an 11-6 game, which somehow was not scoregami. Getting into the playoffs by winning an 11-6 game is so stupid. I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo yesterday, all right? The game was brutal, but it's not as if, they had won 4 in a row, then lost the game, and then put themselves in a position where they had to win the final week to get into the postseason. Like, wow, this is how we get it. No, I'm not going to poo-poo the win yesterday because they had lost 5 in a row. and winning 11-6, I don't care what the score is. After losing 5 in a row, win a game, whatever the score is, to get to the playoffs, you're happy about that. You feel good about this. So I'm definitely not going to poo-poo that situation. I'm not going to poo-poo. I'm not going to poo-poo. I'm not going to poo-poo getting into playoffs. But I will tell you, getting into the playoffs by a score of 11-6 is so stupid. But anyway, that game was brutal. Skylar Thompson stunk. Like that's why relying on Skylar Thompson to get to the playoffs, it just seems, it's, what the hell are we doing? And this comes, after, what we're talking about the week before, and Bridgewater got hurt and Thompson has to go. Like, Skylar Thompson, to me, for the most part, does not look like an NFL quarterback. And you could easily see, now, he didn't make any mistakes. I don't even remember if there was a ball that, should have been intercepted or was almost intercepted. In that sense, he did a terrific job. Did not make mistakes. But the game was such a bore, he clearly does not trust what he sees. They didn't take any chances downfield. The one time he took a chance downfield, his arm got hit as he threw it, and Gesicki happened to be in the right place, right time to catch that duck. It was quacking all the way 30 yards in the air. The only time that he decided to go deep. He clearly doesn't trust what he's seeing out there. You can't wait for the receiver to be open, especially against a very good Jets defense. And I know Sauce Gardner got hurt toward the end, but that Jets defense is really good. You're not going to have guys open. Everybody knows the old adage, right? You gotta throw the receiver open. And Skylar Thompson was never doing that. He never trusted what he saw. And it was brutal to watch. And holding on to the ball. So, Skylar Thompson stunk, but I did feel good for him at the end of the game. He was so happy because the reality of it is, you got this third-string rookie quarterback who, the fan base, myself included, hey, you got to keep him on the team. You got to fight. We're fighting to keep this guy on the team. And the Dolphins' entire season, their playoff hopes came down to him winning the final game of the season. He didn't make mistakes. So however they wound up winning that game, and he put them in position for Jason Sanders, and we'll get to him, for Jason Sanders to have a shot late in the game, they wind up winning the game, and you saw him jumping up and down. He stunk. But I felt really good for him. I did. Good for him. Good for Skylar Thompson. But if we could talk about this weekend real quick, if it is Skylar Thompson starting this weekend at Buffalo, Sunday, 1 p.m., if it is Skylar Thompson starting this weekend at Buffalo, we have no chance. No chance. They're going to get smoked this Sunday afternoon in Buffalo. Absolutely no chance. And that's not even speaking down about the Dolphins. That's giving proper respect to Buffalo. It's giving proper respect to what's probably the best team in the AFC and would have been the #1 overall seed if they they were able to play the game against Cincinnati last week. It's giving the proper respect to that team where maybe the best team in the NFL is playing a Dolphin team this weekend who right now is in line to start their third-string quarterback. Amidst all kinds of other injuries as well. How can you not think that maybe the best team in the NFL is going to smoke a team who just got off a 5-game losing streak and is starting their third-string quarterback? Before going into the season, everybody thought Buffalo, they're the cream of the crop of the AFC East and maybe the entire NFL. If that team is going to face a wild card team starting their third-string rookie quarterback, how do you not think that the Bills are going to blow Team X out? So it's not about being, it's not even so much about the Dolphins, who have just had an incredible string of bad luck here and feel like they're snake-bitten with injuries. Raheem Mostert is likely out. He's got a broken thumb. They're snake-bitten, it feels like, with injuries. But with such a promising season, I'm texting friends, Super Bowl? Question mark. Now, an incredible amount of adversity. They barely get into the playoffs, and they're just not healthy. If arguably the best team in the NFL, Buffalo, is facing a team in Buffalo wild card weekend who is starting a third-string rookie quarterback. How can you not think Buffalo is going to smoke that team? I think it's going to be really ugly if it's Skylar Thompson. Now, maybe Teddy Bridgewater. If it's Teddy Bridgewater, you got an outside shot of winning the game. Outside shot. Because still, you got injuries. Who knows what's going to happen with Teron Armstead. And then you got the right tackle situation. You got an outside shot if it's Bridgewater, who we don't know if he can throw a football. And then you got Tua, who the Dolphins are not ruling out. I'm sure they're hoping he's going to play. I think there's no chance he plays. I think it's such a bad look. I think there's a lot of pressure on the doctors, and there's a lot of pressure on the Dolphins. Now, I want him to play. If doctors clear him, I want the Dolphins to allow him to play. But you'll remember, like this happened with the Heat last year, right, with Markieff Morris. Markieff Morris was cleared by doctors, and the Heat still wouldn't let him play. Because the Heat, they didn't want that on their hands. They were not ready to let Markieff Morris play, even though doctors cleared him. Now, I know it was a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the general picture of what happened. And not just Tua having multiple concussions, but coming off the heels of Damar Hamlin, I don't think the Dolphins are going to put him out there. I don't think that doctors are going to put him out there. But then again, that's not a judgment call from doctors. It's a scientific situation. If he passes these protocols, he's cleared to play. It's not like, oh, okay, but I don't know. Do I want to clear him because of what happened with Damar Hamlin last week? That's not how it works with the doctors. So then it's going to fall into the Dolphins' hands. And that scenario can certainly come into play whether or not the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel want to play Tua. We just don't think it's a good idea. I don't think the Dolphins are going to put him out there, especially with all the criticism that the Dolphins got the first time that they played Buffalo and Tua stumbled, and then he did come out in the second half, and the Dolphins took that ass. I don't think the Dolphins are going to play him. I hope they do. And we already had this conversation last week. We already talked about this last week or a week and a half ago, whatever it was. I'm not going to apologize if doctors clear Tua. I'm not going to apologize wanting him to play. If doctors clear Tua, U.S. fans do not have to apologize wanting Tua to play this weekend. I want him to play. I hope he does. I hope they win. Why? I'm a Dolphin fan. Been a Dolphin fan. Yeah, I'm 42 years old later this month. Been a Dolphin fan for, we're talking about 36, 37 years then. Not going to apologize for being a Dolphin fan. And the Dolphins' best chance of winning a playoff game is with Tua. Not going to apologize for wanting him to play. Not going to apologize for being a Dolphin fan. You don't have to apologize either. But if it's Skylar Thompson who's starting this weekend, like, come on. You can feel good about making the playoffs for the first time since 2016 and also still acknowledge that this team has no shot if Skylar Thompson is starting. They have no shot. They just scored. I know the Jets' defense is good. They just scored 9 points. They just had 3 field goals. Didn't even come close to scoring a touchdown. They just had 9 points against the Jets who had nothing to play for. They're not going to Buffalo and winning this game with Skylar Thompson. They have an outside shot with Bridgewater. Skylar Thompson's he's not a capable NFL quarterback, at least not right now. Bridgewater is. I don't love him, but he's a capable NFL quarterback. Outside chance that Bridgewater can go. And they absolutely have a shot if Tua can play. So like I said, you can feel good about making the playoffs for the first time in 6 seasons, but also acknowledge they have no shot if it's Skylar Thompson against Buffalo. No shot. And it's not even a knock on Thompson. I mean, it is, of course, but it's not as much about Thompson in that spot as much as you have to understand you can't beat a team like Buffalo in the playoffs with a third-string rookie quarterback. It's okay to... You're not a better Dolphin fan if you always think they're going to win. You're just a dope. You're allowed to be realistic. You're allowed to sound somewhat intelligent if you can understand the Bills are not going to lose to third-string rookie quarterback in the postseason. And then, bringing it back to Damar Hamlin and all the higher power stuff and what you believe in. You think the Bills, you think they're losing a third-string rookie quarterback? Like, if you believe in that kind of stuff, if you believe that, Nyheim Hines on the kickoff is getting a little extra push from behind, if you believe that team of destiny type stuff, you believe they're losing a third-string rookie quarterback, first round home? Come on. Everyone's rooting against us this weekend. We are the bad guys. Embrace it. We are the bad guys this weekend. I want to talk a little bit about Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel's big story from the game on Sunday. And going into the game, I'm so aggravated. Like, I don't know if this is where it started, but Armando Salguero, who's fantastic. I know he's, a lot of people, he's kind of a lightning rod. A lot of people don't like him, a lot of fans. But he's excellent. Nobody covers the Dolphins. I think he covers more overall NFL now because he's with Outkick. But nobody over the years covers the Dolphins better than him. Been covering them for like 30 years. He's terrific, no matter what you think of him personally. And I think it was kind of aggregated, like this line from Salguero was kind of aggregated everywhere, and it got a bunch of headlines, and then all of a sudden you have Mike McDaniel might not survive his rookie season. Like, that is such bullshit. The Mike McDaniel hot seat rumors are such bullshit. Firing a coach after the first, like, they fired Cam Cameron after the first year. You go 1-15, you get fired. You don't get, no matter how many mistakes you make throughout the season, no matter how good a roster the general manager gave you, no matter how much money the owner spent, you don't get fired after your first year. I don't care how many games in a row you lost toward the end of the year. You don't get fired after your first year when you're above 500, you make the playoffs, and your main objective, your main job, was to find out if you have a franchise quarterback, and that we did. There is 0% chance that Mike McDaniel were to get fired. Even if they lost that game yesterday, there is no chance Mike McDaniel was getting fired. You found out you had a quarterback. That was by far the most important thing. They had a chance yesterday going into the final game to make the postseason. They did. And this still came on the heels of being without their franchise quarterback for 5 games this year. Think about that. Rookie head coach whose main job, like Mike McDaniel's main job when he got this job this year, Mike McDaniel's main job was not make the playoffs. Mike McDaniel's main job was to find out if Tua Tagovailoa is the franchise quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. His main job was not to make the playoffs. It was to find out about Tua. I'm not trying to say Mike McDaniel was a perfect coach, because I'm gonna bring some criticism here in a second. But Mike McDaniel gets passing grades easily this year, his rookie season. Easily. His job was not to make the playoffs. His job was to find out about Tua. Like, there's a big picture, there's a long-term plan. And year 1 of the rookie head coach, they make the playoffs, found out they have a starting quarterback, and we're still without him. Forget all the other injuries throughout the season. Still made the playoffs without their franchise quarterback for 5 games this year. Yeah. Mike McDaniel gets passing grades as a rookie head coach. For sure. For sure. So that really bothered me going into the game. But I did think Mike McDaniel had a very uneven game yesterday. Very uneven. And that starts with, what was it, their first drive of the game, right? First drive of the game. They're at midfield, what was it, like 4th and 2 or whatever it was. And Mike McDaniel decides to go for it. And he ended up having Skylar Thompson, like he hung on to the ball on 4th down and just, you know, I don't even remember how the play ended, but they didn't pick it up. Everybody knows that. So now, in a game that you know is going to be low scoring, in a game that you know the Jets, Joe Flacco, they're going to struggle to score. They haven't scored a touchdown in like 20-some-odd quarters going into the game. I think it was 22 or 23. You're best served playing a little bit of field position game when you got Skylar Thompson, rookie third-string quarterback, against this Jets team that's starting Joe Flacco, which, by the way, boy, they've given up on Zach Wilson, huh? Zach Wilson was healthy, right? He was the backup, and Joe Flacco can't do anything back there, and they're not going to Wilson. He will not be on the team next year, Zach Wilson. Boy, big bust. Big bust. But Mike McDaniel deciding to go for fourth down there, and it's like, oh, Zaslow, he's been doing that all year. Like that, he's sticking to, that's his personality. He's sticking to the game plan. No. You can't have the same game plan when you have your third-string rookie quarterback. You can't have the same game plan when you're without the guy who's been leading the league in a bunch of categories at quarterback throughout the season. You can't have the same game plan when you're going up against a Jets team that cannot move the football. You got to adjust. And I know that's been a big point of emphasis from the fan base during that 5-game losing streak, was that McDaniel wasn't adjusting. That, to me, was a case of McDaniel being too stubborn and not adjusting. You got to adjust there. Your quarterback situation is different, and you got to adjust to who's playing on the other side of the football. I thought that was a poor job by McDaniel. They should have punted there, and that's not 2020, that's not hindsight, okay? He should have punted instead of playing the game as if Tua is there. Tua's not there. You can't play the game the same way. So that was front. Now, they ended up stopping him. They get the ball back. But what ended up happening was, because you went for it there, the Jets now were the ones who were winning the field position game, and they pinned the Dolphins back inside the 10. Maybe it was inside the 5. Now, Skylar Thompson had a nice little drive there. Bad snap killed what was a promising drive, and then you're getting into the field position game. So, and this happened again. What was it? I think it was the first drive of the third quarter, right? McDaniel goes for fourth again at midfield. They ended up converting there. All right, that was the running play, off tackle, the pitch, and they wind up converting there. Okay, all right. But that was an area to me where Mike McDaniel, you got to adjust. And he didn't adjust. Now, there was a play later in the game where finally he decided to punt, right? What was it? I think it was on the possession that Gesicki caught the duck from Skylar Thompson. They still ended up having a punt. There was probably a penalty thrown in there somewhere. And finally, maybe because it was early in the fourth quarter, finally McDaniel decided to punt in that spot. So I think McDaniel, without question, gets passing grades this year. Not even close. But that doesn't mean he's without his flaws. Now, if a rookie quarterback, God knows we saw it with Tua the first couple of years. If a rookie quarterback, or take whatever other position, important position you want in any sport, if a rookie player is going to make mistakes and can get better year two as they get more experience, why wouldn't we believe that a coach can do that as well? So for the people who don't like McDaniel or want him out, because I'm seeing it on social media. Oh, Zaslow, nobody wants him fired. Go check out some of my mentions. For people who want McDaniel out, for all the things that he did right this year, most importantly, Tua, for all the things that he did right this year, you don't think that he can improve to year 2, to year 3, to year 4? Like, why does he have to be, why does he have to be the total package at head coach right from the get-go? Why wouldn't you assume that he's going to get better? I mean, hey, look, I made a ton of fun of Dan Campbell. Just a meatball. But kind of got to give him a lot of credit, right? Year number 2 as a head coach, you look what he's doing. Kind of got to give him a lot of credit. And that dude's a meatball. So I'd have to figure for a really smart guy like Mike McDaniel, the things that you can be critical of and the things that he didn't do well of this year can't get better in year 2, year 3, year 4. Come on. Got to give the defense a lot of credit there yesterday, too. I'm really worried about Xavier Howard. There are times out there Xavier Howard looks washed. And he may be playing with injuries, but this is not the same player. Xavier Howard gets picked on. It's happened all throughout this year. Xavier Howard gets picked on. And, I mean, he He had a really tough day yesterday. Really tough day. But made a huge stop. The defense in general made Xavier Howard, great breakup late in the game. Defense ends up making the big stop. They get the good field position. And then we get to Jason Sanders. So for a Dolphin defense that loves giving up the big drive at the end of the game, they played, for the most part, played well throughout the game and came up with the huge stop. Because, well, it was the possession before that, right? Where Xavier Howard got beat badly on third down. Kader Kohu, very costly pass interference. Defense came up big on that final drive to put the Dolphins in a position to get the good field position. See if the Dolphins can make a couple throws, get a couple big runs, which they did, and put Jason Sanders in position to win the game. I take nothing back that I said about Jason Sanders. None of it. It's all deserved. It was all deserved. But how about that? Now, you can't tell me. You guys are listening to Zaslow Show 2.0 right now, and you're saying to yourself, Zaslow, I was not confident whatsoever in Jason Sanders' lineup for that 51-yard field goal. Nobody was. Nobody was confident. It's going to make me sick if he missed that. You think I don't want to be right in that spot. I love being right. Let's be honest. I love being right. But I don't want to be right in that spot. I thought I was going to be right, but I don't want to be right. I like being wrong in that spot. Felt good for Jason Sanders, too. I don't want him to suck. I don't want him to miss. I don't want to be right in that spot. But I take back nothing that I said about Jason Sanders. He went out there and he did his job. And he even said, by the way, I owed the guys one. Like, what do you think that meant? So, great clutch kick. One of the great clutch kicks, I don't know, in how many clutch kicks? How many kicks bigger than that has the Dolphin fan been through over the last 10, 15, 20 years? Great job by Jason Sanders. He stinks, but he came through in a very big spot. I was going to be sick if he missed that. I didn't want him to miss that. I wasn't going to like being right. I was going to be sick. If you're sick, you got to call Doctors on Call 365, all right? South Florida's urgent care that comes to you. I've been telling you about Doctors on Call 365 for a while now. Why do I love Doctors on Call 365? Because when I wasn't feeling well, my son wasn't feeling well either, I called Doctors on Call 365. I'm going to get someone on the phone right away. I don't have to try and make an appointment with my doctor. I don't have to go to the emergency room and wait there for hours. I don't have to go to the urgent care and I'm going to wind up sitting there for hours as well. No. Doctors on Call 365, I'm going to get them to come to my house that day. I don't have to leave my home. If you want them to come out to your office, wherever you are, the convenience of having the doctor come to you. And I'm talking COVID test, flu test, strep test. You need blood drawn. You need IV fluids, vitamin therapy. Doctors on Call 365. And you got to ask yourself, what's the price you wouldn't pay? The convenience to have the doctor come to you rather than have to sit in that emergency room. Now, there's Sir Broward County, Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade. That's right. Right now, they're self-pay, but what you would pay out of pocket, your copay at urgent care or at the emergency room, it's going to be more than you would pay to Doctors on Call 365 to come to your home and treat you. Listen, don't wait. If you're not feeling well, call right now. 786-577-9302. DoctorsOnCall365.com. Again, 786-577-9302.